The all-new Fast and Furious car pack is here on Forza Horizon 5 as part of the latest Winter Wonderland update. The easiest way to get hold of this, as with the previous car packs, is to go to any festival or house, go to the buy and sell tab here at the festival, go to car packs down here, where you'll be greeted with this screen, and here you'll see as the first pack is the latest Fast X car pack. Priced at $7.99, you receive 5 cars from a film that I haven't seen, but they do look all quite mad, to say the least. So let's take a look at them as cars, as I don't really know what their role is in the story, or vehicles, I should say, because look at that thing at the back, and see what, if any, options are available for these cars in-game. Quickly though, before we look at the cars from the pack, there are a few things in this update that I want to do quickly. First of all, there are a few recycled cars from previous games in the auto show, so let's buy those for a lot of money. The first one is the Aston Martin DBR1, the most expensive car that's come back, for 22.5 million credits. We also have the Jaguar C-Type for 5 million credits. The Ferrari 512S for 3.5 million credits, and the Porsche 906 Carrera 6 for 2 million credits. There also should be a new Winter Wonderland in the stadium, and I was there a minute ago, but it's disappeared is what it's done. So I can't show you that right now, but as you may be able to see from the mini-map, if I open it up properly actually, there is a new Winter Wonderland circuit, so I will try that out with the first of the cars from the new Fast and Furious pack in a second, to give you some kind of idea of what the stadium's like. But yeah, there's a chance Forza might break and just show you this. Of course, as soon as I'd finished filming the video, the Winter Wonderland decided to show up again in the stadium, so here it is, in fact. This is what it looks like. Still though, it really should appear more consistently like this, and, well, after the update, always be there. There are also, I think most excitingly in this update, some new props for Event Lab, most of which, or the ones I'm most excited for, are under the Racing tab. For example, we've got some start lights, we've got a start-finish line, we've got curbs, which snap together, which are going to be so useful for making race-themed tracks, sort of more serious racetrack layouts. You can see there's different versions of those. There's also some things in walls and fences. These are the bits I was actually most excited for, the sort of snappable Armco barriers that I thought would be far superior to the barriers we currently have, although you may have noticed what I've noticed, which is that they've got the little smashable icon next to them, meaning these are actually destructible pieces, dubbing them entirely pointless for making actual race routes out of. We do have these, though, which are solid, these new concrete barriers, but these have a different problem. These don't snap, so you're going to end up with sticky out walls of death. There are also brake markers, which I think are going to be pretty useful distance to corner markers, although trying to put them in even roughly the right place, I think is going to be rather difficult. And of course there are some Winter Wonderland themed props here in the decoration tab. These were the sort of things that I was going to show you in the stadium, so as you can see there's lots of different coloured trees of different sizes. We've got small, a medium, and I'm guessing this is a large tree, which is absolutely huge. So yeah, shame I couldn't have showed you a stadium full of those, but that's what was in there, as well as igloos, these houses, which again are available in some different colours, and some chimneys, which don't quite... There we go. They do work if you fiddle about with them a bit. So yeah, that's the sort of stuff that's added. Shame that these barriers are useless, but other than that, cool to see some new props. So anyway, enough about the update as a whole, onto the cars in the pack then, which is why you've probably clicked on this video in the first place. Let's start with the most tame car here, if we can even say that for a Fast and Furious pack, and work our way up to the maddest. Kicking things off then with what started life anyway as a 1973 Datsun 240Z, but now looks like well, this. This car has by far the smallest engine in the pack, at only just over 2.5 litres, but as you may have seen, there's a huge turbo just slightly peeking out of the bonnet there, helping this car to produce a rather impressive 737 horsepower and 800 torques, which, as with every car we're going to look at today, are all sent through the rear wheels for maximum, well, crashability. As well as being the least powerful car though, it is also the lightest, weighing in at just 1,207 kilos, putting the Datsun in S1 class at 838 PI from standard. So then, in terms of customization and upgrades, as you might expect, with this being a one-off car from a film effectively, there's only one manufacturer paint colour, which is this one, and there aren't all that many options. There are no engine swaps, for example, there's only an all-wheel drive conversion over there. There is the usual Forza Aero, which rather interestingly is this wing, not the classic style wing, and all the usual options you'd expect. You can change your tyre compounds, you can change your track widths, which I may end up doing, you can change some drivetrain bits, put some better brakes, suspension and handling components on, and also upgrade your engine further. For example, giving it 900 horsepower with a turbo. Secondly then, we have what is probably the most iconic car from the Fast and Furious franchise, Dom's 1970 Charger. Even I would immediately recognise this car anywhere. This car has been rebuilt slightly differently so many times now in the Fast and Furious series that I've actually lost count, just like I lose count of how many times they shift gear in a film. In this particular guise though, the Charger produces 980 horsepower and 1,330 torques from a huge 7-litre V8 engine, which sounds quite ridiculous, but compared to some cars in this pack, it's still reasonably tame actually. It does though weigh a little more than the Datsun, rather unsurprisingly, at 1,446 kilos, putting it in S1 at 855 PI from standard, only a small amount more than that Datsun was. I had actually driven this car in Rivals previously to today's video, and was pleasantly surprised by how well it actually drove. I was really expecting it to only manage the straight bits. Again, just like with the Datsun, there's not much in the way of customization and upgrades. Again, there's only one manufacturer colour because it's a sort of one-off, and again, there's only an all-wheel drive conversion and no engine swaps. There is though Forza Aero. This time it is the kind of classic style, which doesn't look quite as bad, but I'm still not going to do it. There's actually no track width options, which is kind of interesting, and there's fewer drivetrain options than for the Datsun. There are though all of the platform and handling options, and, well, disappointingly few engine upgrades actually, although we can, if we want to, get it up to 1,500 horsepower. Next up, we have the other very different Dodge Charger that's in the pack, the 2022 Dodge Charger Hellcat Redeye Widebody, to give it its full name. The first thing you notice with this car is how incredible the supercharger sounds. This is fitted to a 7-litre V8 like that other one, but unlike the previous car, this one doesn't mess about. It produces a very exact and rather ridiculous 1,000 horsepower. It does produce slightly fewer torques than the old Charger though, only 1,289 of them to be exact, and is also the heaviest car we've looked at so far, weighing in at 2,082 kilos, which is quite stupid. Because of this, it's actually slightly lower PI overall than the previous two vehicles. It's still in S1 class, but it's down to 831. Just like the other Charger, this actually handled better than I thought it would, although you could certainly feel that weight a bit more than the previous car. Just like the previous two cars, again there was only one manufacturer colour, being a sort of one-off from the film, but I wanted to put the plum crazy purple on, so I found somebody's design that was called that I think is pretty good version of the colour, just because I kind of wanted to customise one of the cars a little bit. Apart from that though, it's a similar story to the other previous cars. You can do an all-wheel drive conversion, you can put on Forza Aero, you can though, as well as putting a wing on the back, de-wing it, which is kind of cool, but I don't know why you would. This one you can again do the track width, so I might do that. as well as being able to change all the tyre compound options you'd expect. All of the drivetrain options are also there, as are all of the platform and handling options. So you could get the weight down from over 2,000 kilos to 1,600 if you wanted to. And there's a few engine upgrades, so you could take power up to, if we put all of them on, 1,500 horsepower, similar to the other Charger then. I've just realised that the 2022 Fast and Furious Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat Redeye Widebody Fast X doesn't actually fit as a name at the top of the screen, look. It actually covers up my credits. Incredible. Then we go back to look at another modified classic muscle car. This one started life as a 1966 Chevrolet Impala Supersport, but was then painted pink for some reason. This is actually the most powerful car in the pack, producing 1,109 horsepower, as well as a similar number of torques to the other vehicles, 1,292. This isn't surprising though, as this car has an absolute behemoth of an engine at 10.4 litres. It does though weigh 1,408 kilos, probably mostly from that engine, meaning it's the heaviest of the classic cars in the pack, not quite as heavy as that Hellcat Redeye, putting it again in S1 class, but down at 836, just 2 lower than the Datsun that we started off with. As you may have been able to tell from the footage, this one was not a fun thing to drive anywhere near a corner. The Impala clearly being designed purely for drag racing, it accelerated super fast, but had no top speed, and only takes steering inputs really as a suggestion, rather than as a steering input. So, as you probably know by now, this doesn't have more than one manufacturer colour. It does, though, not have any engine upgrade category in the upgrade shop either, which is rather interesting. But it has engine swaps. It's got an 8.9 litre V8 if you want a slightly smaller engine, or a 7.4 litre V8 if you want an even smaller engine with twin turbos. Again, there's an all-wheel drive conversion, and there's also turbo and supercharger options if you want to change the aspiration. There is, again, your usual Forza Aero. I think these are both going to be, yeah, they're both the classic style, so let's not do that. There's several options here, although, again, you can't change the track width like with the other classic, the Charger. All of your drivetrain options are here, though, and some of your platform and handling options are, but you can't take any weight out of it. So that's interesting. No weight reduction and no engine mods, only engine swaps and aspiration conversions. Finally then, we get to what I think at least is the craziest vehicle of this pack. I think you would probably also agree, the Flip Car 2.0, which, let's get straight into it, unfortunately, despite what it's designed for and called, in this game we can't use it to flip other cars over, which made it a huge disappointment before I'd even bought it, because I knew this from when they told us this pack was coming, which makes it rather pointless. It's also the least powerful car in the pack, somehow producing only 700 horsepower and only 984 torques from another 7 litre V8 engine like a couple of the other cars have. So this is apparently just the standard size of V8 in America, as 3 out of 5 vehicles seem to have it. I'm guessing that maybe the engine in this one isn't supercharged, and that's the reason for the lack of power. And that's not all though for this car, it's also the second heaviest thing in the pack, weighing in at 1,882 kilos, putting it at the lowest overall PI too. Like all the others, it's in S1 class, but only just at 815. It does, though, look like this, and has steering on all 3 of its axles. Driving it, though, I have to say it felt a bit sluggish. Maybe just after driving those more powerful machines, it didn't feel like it had much power, but it really didn't feel fast in the straights for a vehicle in S1, and suffered from understeer in the corners. So, just like everything else in the pack, only one manufacturer colour, but I kind of wanted to paint at least some of the cars in the pack, so I've obviously gone and painted it in bright yellow, because it is a wedge of cheese. This also has aspiration conversions as well, which is kind of interesting. But if you put an all-wheel drive swap on it, it drops it into A class. And from what I've heard, there's some very fast tunes for this thing, almost bone shaker level of fast for A class racing. So it really shouldn't be allowed to drop into A class. So I kind of hope they fix that. But other than that, there's all of your usual tyre compounds, no track width or anything like that, as you might expect. There's slightly fewer options in the drivetrain category, and only the 2 in platform and handling, but you can bring weight down slightly to 1700 kilos if you want to, and there are a few engine upgrades. I don't think it's going to reach 1000 horsepower. I will just quickly check that. But yeah, apparently this is a bit better than it should be. No, it only gets to 838. Although potentially if you also, yeah, if you twin turbo, it'll get over 1000. Not sure why you would want to have over 1000 horsepower in this thing. But there you go. You can make it, well, as mad as it looks, I suppose. And that is going to do it for today's video, taking a very first look at the Fast and Furious car pack here on Forza Horizon 5, as well as the Winter Wonderland update as a whole. So the update has some rather expensive cars in the auto show, although given this game's economy, that's not really too much of a problem. It's a shame the Winter Wonderland in the stadium didn't load properly, but you got some idea of what that was like from the background cinematics of the car while I was explaining what that Datsun was. There's also some cool new props in Event Lab, just a shame that those barriers are destructible. As for the car pack itself, it's kind of cool. It's not too expensive at $7.99. I mean, personally, I've not actually seen the film, so maybe I'm not getting as much of it out of it as some of you guys might. But yeah, some totally mad cars in it. I did expect going into this that there wouldn't be many upgrades for them, and I did know that the flip car wasn't actually able to flip anything. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with them. There's not many options, like I say, but that was all expected. So I think it's kind of a cool pack. It's certainly got some quite interesting vehicles in it. The only question now is whether they should keep introducing these, because it is getting, well, just greedy, to be honest, of Playground Games to keep introducing these. They're coming every update now, so they really need to stop, especially these slightly bigger packs for $7.99 rather than the lower priced ones with slightly less cars, because, yeah, the price is really adding up. But there we go. I think it's some fun cars, and then I'll leave the decision up to you whether you think that's worth $7.99 or whatever that equates to in your currency. For now, though, for today's video, that is going to be all, so thank you very much for watching, and I will be back with the next one very soon.